Hello, everyone, and welcome to the answers to the semester exam for Spanish 2. Now, the exam that I'm going to use is the honors exam, but it's identical to the regular exam, except there are a couple of extra pages. So if you're following along and you're in the regular class, then you can just ignore the 30 seconds on a page that we didn't have. But you should follow along with your exam to check the answers and see what's right. So here we are with the exam, and you can, and we'll get started. Now, I'm going to just do part 1 and part 2s. If you have any specific questions about answers on part 3, then you should come and speak with me personally, or email me or something while I'm away on paternity leave. But for part 1 and for part 2, there shouldn't be that many questions. They're a little more straightforward in their answers. But again, if you do have questions, watch the video again or just go ahead and contact me. So here we go. Let's get started. So vocab section 1, here are the answers. Necesitas una receta. You need a prescription to buy medicine, and that's how you spell it. She is pregnant, vocab from chapter 1. It's está embarazada, not S. Obviously, looking at the two, it's present tense, so it can only be B or D. So most people, I presume, if they didn't know that it was a sta, then they just sort of, excuse me, they just went, they chose incorrectly. Mark words that deal with parts of the body. Tobillo, cabeza and pierna, ankle, head, and leg. Some people checked la radiografía, and I believe I gave it to them because I could at least understand the argument where, well, you're taking an x-ray of your body, so rather than argue with people, if you had it in, that's fine. That'll be one that I probably should have changed and not made that an option because it is a little ambiguous. So number 4, no era grave, it was not serious. Very good. And then a lot of people did not get this. Poner una inyección. It's part of the vocab in chapter 1. Most people use dar. Only a handful of people knew that the verb was poner, but that's what it is. Translate the following sentences in English. Me di con, that's from the verb darse con, which means to bump into. Most people, these are about 2 points apiece, so most people got this part wrong, so they usually missed at least -1 on that. But they got the I broke my arm part correctly, which, by the way, that's a typo on my part, so there we go. I broke my arm. Cool. I had a fever, and it was very high. People who got it incorrect usually didn't put it in the past tense. They didn't translate it for the tense correctly. And then almost everybody got this one right. There are many people in the ER who are sick, or some version of that. There are many people in the emergency room who suffer illness. I mean, that's fine. It means the same thing. Okay? Cool. Next page. This one applies only to the honors courses. La red is another way of saying the internet. The opposite of prender, which means to turn on, is apagar, which means to turn off. Vocab words that refer to car, volante, baúl, and arrancar, the steering wheel, the trunk, and to start a car. By the way, if you're in the regular class, this is all vocab you're going to need to know this month. It's part of the Chapter 2 test. This question I used again later in the exam, and we'll see, tenía un coche. And this is also, I guess, testing 2 things, really, if you think about it. We know it has to be past tense, and so the question is B or D. And the reason we know, of course, is because tenía is a past tense. But we also should know that we translate the imperfect one of 3 ways. Used to have, would have, or was having. So the only one that applies here is D. I used to have a car. And estacionar means to park a car. Again, most people did pretty well on this, to be honest, for the people in the honors class who had this one. This was pretty straightforward. I think and some people put, for example, in the second one, they put it in the present tense, or they put it in the past tense. It didn't really make any difference to me what tense you put it in, just as long as you wrote the sentence correctly. All right, present tense 1. Mark the irregular verbs in the present tense. Okay, we got, I don't know why that one's not there. Oír, suponer, and conocer. Okay. Oír is irregular yo, oigo. Suponer, irregular yo, pongo. And conocer, irregular yo, conozco. The other three are regular verbs. The we form of repetir is repetimos. Present tense, we form endings, amos for AR verbs, EMOS for ER verbs, and IMOS for IR verbs. Mark the E to I stem changers. There's only one. Repetir. Some people put in seguir, but seguir is not an E to I stem changer. It's a crazy mofo because it does go E to I, but it also has irregular yo. And like we've said, you can't be two things. If you're two things, then you're a crazy mofo. So this is the only correct answer here. And then they see is then. And then in this one, almost everybody got this right. Two verbs are next to one another. The first verb is conjugated, and the second verb is an infinitive. Okay. For part 2, the main thing that I was looking for in this was, did you conjugate traer correctly in the yo form, trigo? Did you conjugate salir correctly in the yo form, although I did accept the we form, because some people did that, where you go with your friends and you said we go here, so I accepted that. And for the most part, I was looking for, did you give me the yo form of creer, creo? But there were some people who answered the question without using the verb creer, and that was okay too. Okay, there was flexibility here. Really quickly, just a quick mention about part 3 for this one. This was one that for some people was actually quite honestly disappointed with the response for most people. You did not get full credit if you did not explain to me what the regular rules of conjugating a verb are, take off the ending and add the new ending, as well as the 3 different types of irregulars. If you only just said, it means they don't follow the normal rules, for example, and then you gave me the 3 groups of irregulars, that's fine, but you didn't get full credit because you didn't tell me what the regular rules are. So I figured a lot of people did that. So I was a little, and especially since this came right, this whole page is actually exactly the same thing as present tense worksheet 1 or 2. I can't remember which one. So if you just went back and looked at work that we'd already done, you'd have all the answers on this one. But whatever. Present tense 2, poder, just like we said above, ER verbs, so EMOS. No stem change. I know poder is O to UE, but there are no stem changing in the nosotros and vosotros in the present tense. IR verb, we said before, IMOS. It can't be these two because that's past tense. And then mark the endings for the present tense. Almost everybody got these right, so that's good. IS doesn't exist, and E with an accent is preterite. She likes, le gusta, cool. And then the 2 form of ser in the present tense, eres. Some people are getting that wrong. It's driving me nuts. This one we were all over the place. Some people did really well. Some people didn't do well. We actually did this exact thing. You did it as a homework assignment, and we went over it in class early on in the year. It's the exact same thing. So, looking ahead, getting prepared for the final exam, one might say, if we do an activity in class, then maybe I should not throw it away, or I should kind of go back over and look at those, because some of them end up on the final exam, which is true. Alrighty, I don't constantly recreate the wheel. From my perspective, if I have you do it, it's because I think it's important. And sometimes I'll say, well, why should I create a whole new paragraph when I've already done one? Let's see. If people study it, then they would know. So that's something to think about for this semester as you start getting prepared for the final exam in May. But we've got juntos means together, so that means we, so vemos, yo, salir. It's good to arrive early at school because I always see my friends in the cafeteria. We talk and we plan what we want to do. You can't put ir here, or vamos, because we know that ir is always followed by the letter A, and there is no letter A here. However, in number 10, there is a letter A here, al, so al, so that's why vamos works here. Usually everybody got these two, 11 and 12, right, and then they started having some issues. The correct answer is seguir, sigo con mis clases, but I think some people said like vuelvo, and I think I gave it to you. If you didn't, come and see me, and I may adjust, but for the most part, you can't say volver con in Spanish, but it worked for most people. I accepted ear for this too when people said van a sus casas because of the A, but vuelven is probably better. And then juego. A lot of people put juego, but they conjugated it incorrectly. Alrighty, that's a section for Spanish 2 honors, so don't worry about that. Cool. And for this part of the video, I'll end after the imperfect tense, just so they're shorter, and then I'll create a second video that you can look at for the remainder of the test. Imperfect tense 1. I was actually pretty surprised and somewhat disappointed, actually, at how some people did on this. There are only 3 verbs that are irregular in the imperfect tense, and those irregular verbs are ir, ser, and ver. That's pretty basic information, so you really need to know that. Okay. The other thing I said about the imperfect tense is that we have to pay attention to accents, and the only ones that matter is the we form. There's an accent on the A, and there's an accent on éramos for ser and íbamos for ir. And I even said these will be on the exam. So here they are, and people were getting them wrong. Habamos with the accent is the correct one here. There are only 3 irregulars, ir, ser, and ver. 2 of them are here, so those are the ones you check. I had people check everything. Doesn't make any sense to me. Here's the same question as we had in like the first page in vocab 1. I used to have a car. And then, of course, a lot of people got this wrong because they didn't put the accent over the A. Hablábamos, accent on the A. My friends, vivir, again, what do we know about the imperfect tense? It's translated into English one of 3 ways. Was verbing, used to verb, or would verb. Therefore, you can't say my friends lived in San Sebastian. You have to say my friends used to live, or were living, or would live. I would have accepted anything. But if you wrote just lived, I marked it wrong. Same thing here. Used to love, would love, was loving. I mean, I'd accept any of those. And then, of course, I was walking when I saw. Imperfect. Quando. Preterite. Imperfect tense 2. I would have accepted ir, ser, or ver. Any of those 3 as an irregular verb. E is the ending for he, she, or it. And then again, what do we know about the imperfect tense? Was verbing, used to verb, would verb. Therefore, used to play, were talking, would eat. That's it. Okay? I haven't even taught us this. I have been thinking. We don't even know what that means yet. Okay? Ate is preterite. I am sleeping is present tense or present progressive, and you think is present tense. And they were saying there are only 3 verbs that are irregular, so decir can't be irregular. I had a lot of people picking this, dihian. And they're getting it confused with the preterite, where decir is irregular. In the imperfect, just drop the ending and add the new ending. Drop the IR and add IAN for they. And then íbamos, again, a lot of people gave me íbamos, not everybody, but the people that did give me íbamos, some got it wrong because they didn't have this accent over the I. Oh, that's the end of part 1 of the video. Watch it again if you need to go back over it, or go on to part 2.